Hello, everyone. I'm here with Kate Kirwin. Kate, how are
Hi.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm very good. So Kate is a passionate advocate for women in STEM and the innovation ecosystems. Is the founder of She Codes. She has led the steep growth of the project since 2015. There is one particular thing about you, Kate, that I saw in an article in the West, where it goes by Kate Kirvin likes to imagine a world where young girls aspire to be programmers in the same way they might dream of being ballerinas. And I love that. That itself is, as a way to change the game. So
Yeah.
can you explore with us a little bit more about that? You changing the game for girls and how that experience has been for you.
Yeah. We're actually coming up to our sixth anniversary of She Codes in a couple of weeks, which I kind of found out by accident. Facebook memories popped up the 6th of March. So yeah, I've been doing this a little while now. Really trying to explore those stereotypes around women in tech. I know for me, my background isn't in technology, and it is something that I kind of just got really curious and sort of exploring a little bit more about. But I don't think it was ever really posed to me as an option. And the more that I look into this, the more that problem seems to be there, that people aren't being told that tech is a place that is for women, is a place that women are going to succeed. And even so far as people saying like it's not a safe career pathway for women, or it's not an appropriate career pathway for women. And I just think that that's completely crazy. Like, we're in 2021. We should be living in a world where you can do whatever you want to do. And that these things are sexy jobs. Like, there are really cool things that you can do with technology. It's changing the world. It's changing the future. It's building the future. And somehow we still have these crazy stereotypes of like a guy sitting in a basement with lines of code washing over a projector, hacking into banks. Like, that's what is being portrayed in the media, which is completely crazy and untrue.
Yeah, you're quite right there. So look, our company Visage is in that area of STEM, and we always looking to have more girls in the team. We do think that is one of the challenges that we get is exactly the fact that the girls don't apply for the jobs, or they're not there. Is the access to female candidates is quite hard. So
Mm-hmm.
what is that you have been doing that can help that to happen?
So I think the most important thing is an invitation. So we hear this a lot, that people that were interested in high school or university have just been told no so many times, by career counselors, by their peers, by their family, that it's not a safe career option, that it's not a good career option, that whatever it is, they've just been told no so many times. That now that they don't want to take a chance on it, now that they're in careers, they're like, oh, I'm a little bit nervous. So just putting that option, that invitation out to people of like, actually, you can do this, and we're going to help you along that way. I think that's the most important thing that we can do to get more people into industry and into these kind of career pathways. It's really about that invitation as the first step.
So interesting, yeah, about that invitation part of it. You did mention before that you didn't come from that sort of background. You didn't study tech, as I saying so, but somehow you got into it. Would you be comfortable to tell us a little bit more about yourself, how that journey was for you?
Yeah, so my professional background is in events. Um, and that kind of happened pretty organically. Just started working in events while I was studying. And there's something really magical about events, that people kind of come together. They're either learning something or they're doing something, they're meeting other people. There's just a magic that happens around events for me. And I started at Space Cubed, which is a co-working innovation space here in the Perth CBD. Lots of startups, lots of people doing cool things. And I didn't know any of that. I knew events, I knew how to organize events. And that's what I was doing in the space here. And I just got really curious of like, how do I find out what our members are doing? How do I find out what these startups are doing? How do I talk the same language as them? So I went along to everything, half of them because I was organizing the facilities of the event, and sometimes I was just curious about the topics. And it was at those kind of events that I started feeling, particularly the tech events, I started feeling really uncomfortable. Like, I'm a young woman. I really like wearing bright colors. I'm not today, but normally I'm in bright colors. And I'm in a sea of guys that are in, you know, black, white, gray, red sometimes, all talking a completely different language to me, lots of acronyms, everything going way over my head. And it just wasn't really welcoming to me as a woman or as a beginner. And I started off solving the beginner problem. Like, how do we find a place for beginners to come and talk and like really dumb down what we're talking about in tech that's using plain English, so that we can kind of understand the core fundamentals of what we're doing before we start talking about all the jargon. So I started a Learn to Code meetup, open to anyone. And the first couple of those I had these total beginners that have only been coding for 10 years. Okay, this is not your space. But that was quite cool for a little while. And then I got an invitation from a guy in the community who was like, I really want to do something for women. But I'm really aware that I need to invite women along on that journey. It can't just be me organizing it. So Marcus brought me on board to run the first ever, what would be now She Codes. We were Perth Web Girls at the time. Being part of that community and that committee organizing something for women. And then, yeah, it's just kind of spiraled from there. He's now moved away, and I've kind of just taken over and made stuff happen.
It's interesting how, you know, your events background came to fit that very well, isn't it? Because you ended up using that background and joining with the idea to help the girls in the STEM. That's pretty cool. I reckon that through I read somewhere that you had 4,000 young female coming through the program along with the 6 years.
Yeah, so we're at about 4,500 women that have done our programs now.
Nice. So would you have any story of someone that started their career in STEM coming through the program?
Yeah, so there's quite a few. So there's a few really cute ones that have happened sort of outside of my knowledge, and I've only kind of found out a couple of years later. So there was one event that I was standing in line to talk to a speaker at the end of a meetup, and the girl behind me was like, oh, hey, I know you. You're Kate from She Codes. I'm like, yeah, that's me. Turns out she'd come to one of our first ever workshops, and now she's working in robotics at Woodside. And she was like, that was the turning point for me. It was just this, yes, I can do this. This is community. This is a space I really want to learn more about. And she went away into her own time. And yeah, now she's in the robotics department, doing cool things on mine sites with robots. So that was quite cool. We've had a few people through our 6-month program, which is our more intensive stepping stone of getting people from a career. Sarah was a travel agent, picked a really good time to get out of travel, and did our program in 2019. And then in 2020, she started as a consultant working in tech. And we've had a few other people along the way as well. That Sophie, who did last year's program, she was teaching English as a second language, and again also got kind of rocked the boat with COVID and everything that happened this year, because there wasn't as many people traveling, and has managed to pivot into a full-time developer role. So there's some really, really cool stories, and I think what I love most is hearing those people that have come from, you know, not really a lot of opportunity to something that's full-time, that they love, that they have a lot of potential to grow, where their old industries, they didn't really have that.
Nice. I love those stories. So I reckon it's very, very interesting to hear about those pivotal moments for the girls. So they come, they attend workshops or training, and suddenly then you have them to actually realize that they have a career there. That's pretty cool. So what is, well, I understand that this journey has been quite nice. So, it's a good story to tell the journey of the she codes and where you got until now. So what do you have in the plan? So what is the next steps? Is something different happening?
Yeah, so we've got some pretty exciting stuff coming up. So it's our 6th anniversary birthday event in a couple of weeks, which is very exciting for us. So we've got that. We're also launching a program in Port Hedland this year, which I'm really excited about. One of the things that I think has been really key for me in developing this whole thing is how do we make things accessible to the people that really, really need it. And I'm really lucky that we get to be in WA where there aren't that many opportunities as there is on the East Coast, and all the locations we've picked along the journey. We've been out in regional WA, down to Bunbury and Geraldton, Port Hedland and Karratha, all over the place. And then to Brisbane, which also has a very similar community to what we have here in Perth, that misses a lot of the stuff that does the Melbourne, Sydney, Canberra, and then doesn't really get any further. So yeah, we're going up to Port Hedland. We're doing a 6-month program up there. We'll probably fly up every couple of months and deliver the rest online, which is another little bonus, I guess, from COVID, that we've learned how to do things online. And I think people have got a lot more comfortable with the idea of online training. So that launches in a few weeks. And yeah, we've got really ambitious goals. So our goal is to get 100,000 women in tech by 2025 across the country. And I told you at the beginning, we've taught 4,500. So we've only got like 96,000 to go. Very, very close. But yeah, we've got really ambitious goals, set the sights high and see what we can do.
I love it. I love the fact that one thing that from time to time in conversations we talk about is, to dream small is the same effort to dream big. Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't take any further effort to dream big, to see where you can go. 100,000 girls. So I love it. So yeah. We'll be good.
And that number came from, I guess, some context on that. So we were looking at a study that was done, and we need 200,000 more people across the country to stay globally competitive as a nation, which is pretty crazy that we need 200,000 more people in tech. And at the moment, we don't actually have the number of people coming through university STEM degrees to even get there. Yep. But our team were looking at that and we were like, well, if we need 200,000 more people, imagine if half of those were women. Like, we still wouldn't have complete 50-50 diversity, but if half of the new people coming through were women, that would be pretty incredible. And so that's where that number came from.
That's very inspiring, Kate. Very good. So tell me a little bit about what about the role of the people that are not part of She Codes? Like if I can use myself as an example. So how would you like to have people like me to come along and help in changing the game?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is that women's things aren't actually just about women. So we actually do need men involved along on the journey. And I think my issue with a lot of women's things is only women are involved and only women can do something about it and aren't male-friendly areas. And we've been very intentional that one of our values is that we're female-focused, but we're male-friendly. And we know that men need to be part of that journey. So I definitely think that there is a space for guys in this conversation, first and foremost. But I think it's the little things that we can all do every day. So not pushing stereotypes, helping people like inspire them and build them up and not pull them back down. Let them dream and push them with opportunities. So we know that people are more likely to apply for jobs if they've been given a recommendation to do so by a friend or a colleague or a manager even. People are more likely to go for promotions if someone has given them that little head start. It's really hard to take the chance on yourself if somebody else isn't going to take that chance on you as well. It's that external validation thing. So I think it's just about being really conscious of like, how do we push these things out to women and tell them the little bits of advice at the time that they need it to help them grow on an individual level. And then obviously on a broader systemic level, I think that there's still a lot of businesses that are talking about we need diversity and we need all these things, but aren't really willing to put their money where their mouth is and actually do something about it. So having a look at your policies of, are actually you a flexible workplace, and are you actually investing in educating women and giving them opportunities, or are you just expecting to sit there and have people come to you? So yeah, I think there's the two sides. There's the small bits that we can all do each day, and then there's the bigger systemic things that really need to come from the top, and that's government and business to drive that.
That's very good. So what I'm getting from that is the role of not only myself but everyone, regardless of the gender, is actually to make sure that we help to build that world where is inclusive, where the opportunities are there, the flexibility that we need are there. It's everything there for any person to feel safe and to come along and do the best in their careers.
Yeah, 100%.
I think what I'm interested in is some of the conversations that we have about diversity and inclusion. Talk about whether this is the right thing to do because we need to include everyone, or whether this is actually good for business. It is actually, we have tangible results to show that when we have that diverse group, the outcomes are better. So how you see that? Have you seen that in your stories of bringing that diversity is actually having better outcomes?
Yeah, so what I like to talk about a lot is 50% of the population are women. Women make a lot of the actual purchasing decisions in households. A lot of small decisions are made by women. We're really big users of technology, and a lot of household items are specifically designed for women. And yet a lot of the people building them aren't women. And the example that I use a lot is I actually have a fitness tracker, which is designed for women. And there's so many things about it that just work so well for me, like the types of sports on it, the way that I can wear it as a necklace, and it's pretty, versus the one that I used to have, which was obviously, it's a unisex one, but it was clearly designed for men. Just did not work for anything as part of my lifestyle. And so I wore that for like 2 months, and I'm like, I hate this thing, because it felt like, I don't know, it didn't feel like it was for me. And so there's this whole opportunity of, there's these things that we've been making do with because there's no good option. But if we can design things thoughtfully, because our people on our team are more connected to the end user, I think there's so much more potential for better products, for better marketing strategies, all of these kinds of things. So on a product level, makes a ton of sense. We also know that there's a lot of data that women in teams make teams safer, makes them more productive. You get better results when you've got diversity of thought. There's a whole heap of research that, that little bit of change actually makes a massive difference in the output that you get from your business. And there's more and more studies every year. This stuff keeps coming out. I don't think it's a myth anymore, right? Like, there's so much research about it. It's just about, I think everyone knows that it's there, but it's just about how we actually translate that into actual dollars and cents for each business. That I don't think that bit has quite been done yet.
It's interesting that you mentioned about having more women in the group makes the team feel safer. So I had an interesting experience in a program that I did 2 years ago, where we have a strong diversity in the team, and one of the things that I felt was that I was completely relaxed to share, to let other people talk. And that was a big thing for me. So because I shamefully would, in reflection, I would say that in some of those settings where we're doing a team exercise, so I tend to be a little bit more dominant and trying to put my voice in and force that a bit. In that environment, that sort of setting, I wasn't doing that. And I was quite intrigued So why I'm behaving differently? And the only explanation that I got from that is that the diversity of the group made me feel safer. Like I'm not competing for anything here. We're here to do together. It was quite interesting. Someone was chasing that idea when I share it, saying some people may feel that because of diversity is unknown, sometimes you feel trapped by diversity. But for me, in my experience, it was the other way around. So I felt very safe. So it's interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, on a broader level, right? Like the more that we can get equality for women, there's actually so many more benefits for men who don't fit the normal, like the mold of what it is to be a man. If we can kind of tear down what it means to be a woman, then it tears down what it means to be a man as well. And we can hopefully get rid of some of that toxic masculinity and like all of those stereotypes of those guys who were like, oh, I'm not quite in this camp, but I'm not quite in that camp either. I just want to be somewhere in the middle. But there isn't really a safe space for those people. So if we can help women, it does help men as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. So it's good. It's good that it helped me to reflect what is the role that I have. And you're quite right. So how can we dismantle that idea of what it means to be a man in business as well? So it's quite confronting when you stop to think, and the person you become when you're in a business setting, the person that you really are, if you do a honest reflection on that on yourself. So it's quite confronting. So, Kate, you are, the She Codes program is part of the, the broader Space Cube ecosystem, right? So you have those, the startups around and the innovators, the entrepreneurs having a conversation. So how She Codes, when, the girls come and have that first experience and get to find out and more about what it is to be in the STEM career, is that linking back to innovation and entrepreneurship? So are these girls going to found their own companies or to, chase their own ideas?
So we haven't seen the full cycle really happen yet. So I think that there is still a lot of support that people need coming out of a program like mine to really understand, it's a boot camp, it's pretty intense. We teach as much as we can in a short amount of time. But there are still some bigger sort of architecture questions and some mentoring and support that is really hard and overwhelming if you're in your own startup, because you're normally the salesperson, the tech guy, the product guy or girl,
Yep.
all of those things all in one person. So we typically see that would be a few years working for somebody else and kind of honing your skills and getting really comfortable with the work, and then seeing that spin out into their own thing. We do have one of our girls who did the program in 2019 who's been working on a little side hustle around getting old dogs rehomed. It was her final project that she was working on during the program, and she's continued with that. And I saw this morning she's also just launched her own blog that she been working on as well. So there's a few sort of small side projects. We don't see that happening as like as a full startup yet. But I think sometime in the future, it'd be really great to see that kind of full circle of people coming through the ecosystem and supporting businesses as they're growing, and yeah, kind of completing that life cycle. So I guess watch this space.
Yeah, very nice. Good. So I do the work that we do in the innovation ecosystem. We are seeing the number of female founders growing quite considerably, and also the appetite of the investors to actually back those, those companies that are that they do have female founders. So look, it's been quite nice to talk with you, Kate. So it is always unfortunate that we have limited time for these chats because we could go forever. So Kate, before we go, if a girl is listening to this podcast and wanted to reach out, want to know more about She Codes, what she should do?
Sure. So we'll also clarify before I tell you where you can find me. When we're saying girl, we do actually mean anyone of any age. So we've had women sort of from 5 through to 70 come along to our one-day programs. So I hope you're not listening out there thinking, oh no, I'm 35 and I'm too old to learn how to code. That's totally not true. You can definitely join no matter where you are on that spectrum of age. It's just a number, doesn't mean anything else. But you can find me, I'm on LinkedIn, so I'm Kate Kirwin, or She Codes Australia. We're at shecodes.com.au, and we usually run events every quarter here in Perth. And if you're out in regional WA, we'd love to come see you as often as we can, and hopefully running more stuff in Queensland this year as well, if we've got any Queensland listeners out there. And I'm pretty much on all other platforms, so Instagram and Twitter, as Kate Kirwin as well. I'm pretty easy to find. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. And if you've got any questions about working in tech, or how we can connect you to people in the Perth ecosystem, or just kind of questions about my journey, I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. So not only the girls, but all the ladies of all ages. That's pretty good. So look, Kate, it has been a pleasure. So when I try to articulate what we're trying to do, we've changed the game, and what is the game and what we have to change, I think you embodies that perfectly. So thank you very much for being with us, and let's go for it. Let's change the game.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome.